Hey, what's up, stock compounders? Brad here. So today I want to talk about my favorite source for finding multi-bagger stock opportunities, okay? I think this is way better than looking at Cathie Wood's ARK ETFs. This website, it's one I've talked about a lot on the channel, Corner of Berkshire and Fairfax, okay? The value investor's haven. So there's a particular thread in Corner of Berkshire and Fairfax. And the way this works, it's a message board. You can start whatever thread you want to. There's investment ideas threads. This is in the general discussion thread. And the thread is, what are you buying today? Okay. And you can see here, if I scroll down, this thread started in April of 2013, all right? So it's been going for almost 8 years now. And basically people just throw out, what stocks they're buying each day. So we can look through them all. I like the second post on here was Apple. Okay, someone bought Apple. I really hope Compounding Life is still holding Apple, because that would be a great name if they are indeed still holding that great business. So anyway, what I did here was I looked through the last week of posts on what are you buying today, okay? And there were about 30 companies that came out of this. I'm not going to jump into those here because it is a membership website. I think it's like $23 US for a lifetime membership, so it's very cheap. But I went through the last week. I pulled out the 30 companies that people were saying that they were buying within the last week, okay? 30 companies. And what I did was I pulled out the ones that were under a $2 billion market cap, okay? Because the idea there is, we need to find companies early to have the best chance at getting these great, 10x, 100x returns on them. Chris Meyer in his book, 100 Baggers, I think the average 100 bagger in that study, started somewhere around 500 million market cap. So, ideally that's kind of the size that I'm looking for in an investment. But this is 2 billion and below, less than 2 billion. There's only one in this list from the last week on Corner of Berkshire and Fairfax that was over $1 billion, between 1 and 2 billion. And that was this cannabis company based out of New York, AYR Wellness. So you can see most of them are even, below maybe 700 million. That tends to be kind of the cutoff between small cap and micro cap, less than 700 million being micro cap. So you guys are going to be familiar with some of the ways that I filter these down in order to decide which of these is most compelling, which do I want to look at first. A few different ways that I'm doing that here is insider ownership, okay? How much skin in the game does the management team have? And so I went through each of these, looked up in the SEC filings, the proxy statement to the last annual report. In some cases, I couldn't do that because they're not U.S. companies, right? We got a Japanese company here. A lot of you are going to be familiar with Shinnikin. We've got a Swiss company, a company from Luxembourg, a couple from Canada, and that basically rounds out. The rest are from the U.S. So insider ownership. Okay, very important metric to me. The second one was guru investors. So this is looking at Dataroma. It tracks, I think, 70 some great investors, might be 50, somewhere between 50 and 70 great investors are tracked in Dataroma. Look up the ticker in there and you can see if there are any super investors who owned these companies as of Q4 2020. So you can see 3 of these companies are owned by super investors in the US anyway. And then VIC, Value Investors Club. Is there a write-up from a very smart investor in Value Investors Club for these companies? And you can see a lot of them do have write-ups. Well, we've got 8 write-ups and 6 non-write-ups. So most of them have write-ups, and you can see when the thesis was written up. And obviously I have preference for more recent thesi, I'm not going to say the other word, than older ones. You see here October 2017. And then I basically created a composite score, right? How compelling are these potential investments based on those 3 metrics? Insider ownership, I'm looking for more than 10%. Guru investors, is there a guru within Dataroma who's invested in the company? And then does it have a Value Investors Club write-up within the last 2 years? That's kind of the arbitrary cutoff that I'm using here. And you get a point for each of these checkboxes, okay? So maximum of 3 points for the score. And then I just sorted these by score, very simple. Now, obviously, you want to see what the company does, right? What industry is it in? Do you have interest in that industry? Do you have any understanding of that industry? So that's a great kind of an initial way for you to filter these based on your own interests and knowledge. But I'm doing it independently of that because I don't know what your interests and your knowledge is. So let's just take a quick look at what these companies are. Shinnikin. So I've talked about Shinnikin before on the channel. I own some Shinnikin from my daughter who's just turned 5 months. So hopefully a very long runway on her Shinnikin holding. Shinnikin is a real estate and real estate related services company in Japan. It seems like Monish Pabrai really sees this company as a spawner, right? It fits kind of his recent framework in terms of what kind of companies he's looking to invest in. So that's fantastic. And it's got a market cap of 352 million US dollars, which is also fantastic. It's below kind of that 500 million cutoff that Pabrai is hoping to buy below. Insider ownership, 22%. Okay, very strong for Shinnikin. And obviously Pabrai owns Shinnikin. We can see that by looking at ticker terminal. Okay, I've kind of gone through that in previous videos where you can see what the gurus own outside of the US, kind of beyond what they're required to disclose on their 13F filings. And then Value Investors Club, there's a write-up from October of 2020, just 5 months ago. Okay, so a pretty fresh write-up on Shinnikin. So 3 out of 3, Shinnikin for the win. So great company to dig into. If you guys, if you're interested in investing in Japan, not for everyone, but a compelling idea there. The next one, Indus Realty Trust. Okay, this is a REIT in the U.S. Focused on industrial and warehouses. Okay, so that's the kind of real estate they own. It was formerly Griff. Okay, for whatever reason they changed their name. I think it was right at the beginning of 2021. The ticker switched from Griff to INDT. Market cap under 500 million. That's great. Insider ownership 25%, very strong. No gurus, although to be fair, so I looked up Griff and INDT in Dataroma. It's possible that gurus own this, but we can't see it yet because it's only been INDT within the first quarter of 2021, and we haven't been able to see the holdings for the first quarter of 2021 yet because the first quarter isn't over, right? We'll see those results in the middle of May. So I'm curious if we might see any gurus involved in INDT. A write-up from just over a year ago gives us a score of 2 out of 3. So compelling potentially there, especially if you have knowledge of real estate investment trusts. Next one, Garrett Motion. So Garrett Motion is a company that I bought as a magic formula pick like 9-ish months ago, okay? It was one of my first 5 magic formula stocks. You guys can see that video if you look back through my video history. It was the first magic formula kind of stock buy video I made. And you can see here the Q at the end means it's gone through bankruptcy proceedings, okay? It's done a reorganization. And what was interesting is right after it filed for bankruptcy, Baupost bought in, which is Seth Klarman's firm, and Oaktree bought in, which is Howard Marks' fund. So 2 big names in there, 2 big guru investors own Garrett Motion. Less than 1% insider ownership, so that's nothing compelling there. There is a very recent write-up from October 2020, just 5 months ago. So, this one, it's a fairly complex situation because of the bankruptcy, but could be interesting for you guys. These super investors were buying in somewhere around $1.50, I believe. So it really tanked once the company filed for bankruptcy. So special situation, we'll call that one. Eyre Wellness. This is the only cannabis stock that turned up in the last week on Corner of Berkshire and Fairfax. What are you buying today? There is a write-up from August 2019, so a little dated, over a year and a half ago. 16% insider ownership, quite strong. So if you're interested in cannabis, I believe this company was in Canada and recently relocated their headquarters to New York. I think that's why, the ticker is not a typical U.S. ticker. Largest company in this list, 1.8 billion market cap. So I don't know if you're interested in that industry in cannabis, this might be one to take a look at. And then we get into the scores of one next on the list. Atento, okay? This is the company out of Luxembourg, CRM services, right? Customer relationship management services. We all know CRM in the US because of Salesforce, just an incredible company in the US. Now, this is a very interesting story here. So the stock is up 15 times in the last year, okay? There was a write-up in March 2020. I believe the share price was $1.47, okay? Now the price is like $22 per share. So I just want to point something out here. Tesla is up 10 times over the last year. Bitcoin is up 7 times over the last year. Most people look at Tesla and Bitcoin and they think, these are the ultimate investments over the last year. And then you've got this small cap, this micro cap company out of Luxembourg that's up 15 times in the same time period. So, it just reinforces we don't need to find the Teslas or the Bitcoins in order to knock it out of the park, okay? We can do that in the value space with these kind of under-the-radar companies. Just want to point that out, guys, which is very exciting for value investors to really understand that. A very small insider ownership percentage. No guru investors own it, and I don't think I would even know. So I did look up in Ticker Terminal, the company, in terms of like the ownership section, and I didn't see any recognizable gurus. So it is very small. It's possible it's just too small for most of the gurus. And a lot of the U.S. gurus probably aren't looking in Luxembourg for opportunities. Or in this industry, right, in the CRM industry. But more and more are, as value investors, particularly the high-profile value investors, are looking more and more in the high growth space, like what this industry is operating in, this company is operating in. March 2020 write-up, so like I said, from a year ago, score of 1. So take that for what it's worth. Next one, Curiosity Stream, okay? Media and entertainment company based in Maryland. Now this was taken public through a SPAC in October of last year, all right? So just 5 months ago, it was brought public. Huge insider ownership, okay? And I believe the insider that owns most of this company is pretty high profile in the media and entertainment industry. So that could be somewhat compelling for any of you who are, knowledgeable about this industry. This might be one to look at, Curiosity Stream. And I'm sure you can find, it's getting some attention. I think there's a whole thread dedicated to it on Corner of Berkshire and Fairfax. I'm sure there's plenty of articles out there through different services. But that's the big kind of, impressive mark there. Very heavy insider ownership. Next one, Kimball International. So this one caught my attention. It's owned by Michael Burry. Okay, Michael Burry, who, doesn't need any introduction. Commercial furniture products. So they basically sell furniture to hotels, storage companies, storage facilities, places like that. So, it's never really a niche that I've thought about, but Burry has bought it fairly recently. It would be interesting to see exactly when Burry bought it and what the price range was over that quarter. But, anything that Burry buys, especially if you understand the particular industry, is probably worth taking a look at. So that's Kimball International. Next we have Pason Systems. Okay, this is a company out of Canada. Instrumentation and data management for drilling rigs. So definitely not a sector I'm familiar with. But there is a write-up from about 14 months ago in Value Investors Club. So check that out if you are interested. And then the rest of these, they don't have any redeeming qualities in terms of insider ownership, guru ownership, or Value Investors Club write-ups. There are a few that have write-ups. They're a bit dated, December 2018 for Blue Knight Energy Partners and October 2017 for CRA International. So I'm not going to go too much into these. I thought this one was interesting. A pizza franchise royalties business, okay? So this company collects royalties from these pizza franchises in 749 locations throughout Canada, maybe some in the US as well. So I thought that was an interesting business model. Probably very low CapEx business, which is interesting. Also very small, less than 300 million market cap with that one. Wild Brain, children and family media content. That's kind of interesting. I have 2 kids, so, might be something. It's not going to be something I'll explore because it doesn't check any of these boxes here, but interesting to see that's being bought in Corner of Berkshire and Fairfax. IntelliCheck, threat identification and identity authentication solutions. That's a mouthful. Obviously, that's probably a growing industry. Might be worth looking at if you have experience there. And then this last one, Eros STX Global Corp, out of Burbank, California, global media company. So anyway, guys, I just thought it was very interesting to look at, what these great value investors are buying from one of my favorite resources, Corner of Berkshire and Fairfax. Much more kind of value aligned than the video I made recently about Kathy Wood's portfolio. So I think I'm going to do this every week. Let me know down in the comments if you want to see every week what Corner of Berkshire and Fairfax members are buying. If this was valuable to you. I found it very interesting. So let me know what you guys think. And yeah, let me know if any of these are particularly interesting to you. If you plan on going deeper on any of these, I'm curious to hear from you all. So anyways, with that, I will leave you all until the next video. Take care.